Hello, dear colleagues. Today we're going to discuss briefly the difference between an immersion and an embedding of a manifold or some another manifold. We're going to talk about so-called submanifolds. So to begin with, we are to give a theoretical reference. Roughly speaking, however, without loss of the idea and rigor, a mapping phi is called an immersion when the differential of phi, or so-called push forward of phi, between a manifold M and a manifold N is a linear isomorphism between tangent spaces of M and tangent subspaces of N. Of course, dimension of M is less or equal to it of N. An embedding is when your manifold M is diffeomorphic globally to submanifold phi of N within N. Thus, being injective for an immersion as for a mapping is not enough to become an embedding. An immersion is a local property, while an embedding is a global one. If one has an embedding, then he has an immersion in any neighborhood of any point automatically indeed. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's consider an open segment from 0 to 1 and the map phi from it to R2, so to the plane. As you can see in the first picture, we have a self-intersecting curve in the plane, and it's an immersion because if you take some point P, some point P on your M, this is M, this all is M, and this is N, and again N. If you take a point P in the domain, you have this point P here, and here you have a tangent vector tau which goes to the tangent vector tau here. And if you take a tiny neighborhood of P, it goes to a tiny neighborhood of phi of P. Alright, so what about this point? For this point, locally, it looks like either this stuff or this stuff. But locally, they are independent, and thus it's an immersion and not a manifold. So the next example shows us that being an injective immersion is not being an embedding exactly. So take a point here, here, it's infinitely close to the point on the curve. Phi of 1 is infinitely close to this point, like right here. Phi of, for example, 1/10. It is infinitely close to the points on the curve. Thus, if you are to unwrap this string, this manifold N, at the point phi of 1 and phi of 1/10, nothing will happen. It will be not even continuous, and thus it won't be an embedding. But an embedding is in the last picture. It's like diffeomorphic, all points are regular, and the tangent vectors go nicely from M to N, and everything is fine. So thank you for your attention.